Alright you guys, today I was going to redo my video on a disassemble reassemble of the Abu Garcia Black Max. This particular one here is a Gen 2, but it's going to be just the same as your Gen 3s if that's what you have. So as far as the tools you'll need to actually disassemble your reel, you're going to need a small precision Phillips screwdriver. A small flathead screwdriver will help as well. A 10mm wrench. And a small needle nose pliers will help as well. As far as cleaning tools, all I use is an old rag, pipe cleaners, and Q-tips. And as far as for oiling and lubricating, I utilize oil from Abu Garcia as well as grease from them. Now you can utilize any brand that you prefer. These are just the two brands that I like to use. Alright you guys, so I have this in a 4x magnification to hopefully help ensure that you're capable of seeing everything I do. Within that though, I'm also going to be hoping to ensure that I actually stay within the frame so that you are capable of seeing everything I do. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start by removing the side plate. Just undoing this here and twisting the side plate upwards to remove it. Here you have your side plate with your magnetic brake system. At that point there, you can then pull out your spool. And now I'm going to grab my Phillips screwdriver head. Remove the cover. Use your 10mm wrench. Removing your handle. Removing the washer. And you can see here it's beveled side down. Now removing the star drag system. From that point there, we're going to remove this here, which looks like so. Once again, utilizing the Phillips screwdriver or a small flathead screwdriver. And then just to show you there on that side plate, there is a smaller screw, and that smaller screw goes right here. Alright, so on your Black Max you also have two additional screws, one here on the inside, if you can hopefully see that, as well as one here to get this side plate off. Okay, once those 5 screws are removed, you can now remove this side plate here. Okay, with this you can also take apart your spool tensioner knob if you like to clean out the inside of that and to oil that bearing within that. So on this side here, you're going to just want to clean up all the excess grease in there. And I like to put a couple dabs of oil on this bearing and then apply some grease within this roller bearing here, obviously after cleaning it. So you have this piece here, and you'll see it's squared off on one end and rounded on the other. When you put it back together, square end facing up. You have this piece here, looks like so. You have this piece here, 2 springs, this brass gear here. This thing is definitely dirty and in need of cleaning. So for the most part, these steps so far have all been pretty simple. The only thing is you'll have to ensure that you put it back correctly. Now we're going to get into some steps that are a little bit more difficult. You're going to take your Phillips screwdriver, and there's 2 screws to remove this front plate. One on each side. Once both of those screws are removed, you can now remove this front plate. Once that's done, we're going to start taking apart the worm gear and worm gear housing with also the line guide. So I'm going to start by removing the C-clip here, and I'm going to utilize the flathead screwdriver to help assist me do that. So you can see the opening is on this side here, and then there's 2 spots on the opposing end that's going to allow me to get the corner of my flathead screwdriver in it. What I'm going to do is stick it in there and push outward, but I'm going to ensure that my thumb is placed over it to help prevent it flinging off and losing it. Alright, so I got that piece off there. Then this small washer, which there's 2 of. And then this plastic piece here. So I am going to remove the paw first by removing this front cap here. And there's a small shim in there on top of that paw that you want to be careful not to lose. So pushing it forward on this side here and then down on the gear here, you're going to remove this pin. You can do it with your fingers, or this is the one time where the needle nose pliers comes in handy, is when working with this part. So I pulled that out there. allowing me to remove this gear. Now, considering how dirty this reel is, I'm going to have to work the pawl out as well as the remaining pieces. So I'm going to remove the line guide rod. I'm going to try to work out that pawl, while making sure not to lose that shim as well. So there's the small shim that goes in the pawl cap. So I'm going to put that in the cap right now so not to lose it. Yes, this reel is definitely dirty. See if the needle nose pliers helps me remove that pawl. There's that piece there. Which then allows me to remove the line guide, the worm gear housing, and worm gear. Now, as far as for cleaning, oiling, and lubing, this is technically how far I'll go. I rarely ever go any further than this. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick cleaning, and then I'll get right back to you with the reassemble. Okay, now that I did a rough cleaning, I'm going to go ahead and start the reassembly. I'm going to do it a little differently just to show you another option. Starting with the worm gear housing, you're going to take it with that side there, as well as the whole side of the worm gear, as the other side looks like that. Insert that in. And grab this gear here. It's got a cross on the top and it's flat smooth on the other side. I want the cross facing upwards. And grab that really small pin, either by hand or with your needle nose pliers. Drop that in place. Let's see if I can't get it by hand. There we go. Now with that star cross on the top, allows me to pull up and lock and secure with that roll pin. I'm going to insert that through the housing here. Ensuring not to forget the line guide, facing in the correct direction. And then line it up with the other side, ensuring that the open face is facing out towards the front. Alright, reposition my hands here. Next will be this piece. It's flat and smooth on one end, and beveled inward on the other end. I want that flat, smooth section pointing up. You'll be able to see the grooves that it drops into, followed by the two washers. And then by the C-clip. Now, just in my opinion, this part here, removing and installing the C-clip, can be the hardest part. So holding pressure on the other end not to lose anything off of that end and to keep it upright, I'm going to place my thumb over the top to help eliminate possibly losing the C-clip, and use the flathead screwdriver to help push it back in place. Alright, once done, it should look like that. Working back towards the front. You're going to want to grab the pawl. You're going to want to insert it. Hopefully you'll be able to see it like this. Drop it in place. Work it around, make sure it's actually in those grooves. Grab the line guide cap, make sure that shim is in there. And you want it centered in there also. So if it's not centered, make sure to place it centered inside the cap. And screw that on. Once you feel some resistance, once again make sure that it's in place. And with your flathead screwdriver, finish tightening it down. Making sure not to tighten it too much. From there, I'm going to grab this piece here, which looks like so. Feed it through this end here, through the line guide, all the way to the opposite end. Keeping it at a downward angle will help hold that piece in. Grab your front faceplate, place that on, and securing it with these two very tiny screws. Now that front faceplate is just plastic, so tighten it, but don't over tighten it. Don't over tighten it because you don't want to crack it. Alright, before you continue, go ahead and spin it. Make sure that line guide's moving freely before you continue on any further, just to make sure everything's correct. Now from there, we're going to go ahead and continue. Now, with this piece, probably hard to see in the camera, but it's somewhat rounded right here, where if you were to flip it over, it's more of a squared edge. So you want the rounded edge facing upwards. Drop that until it's in place. Followed by the gasket. There you go. For those of you who've done this before, you'll be able to see I haven't greased it yet. Just going to go ahead and get it back together for you. So now, this piece here is actually easier to put in beforehand. My apologies. Just slide this up and out of the way, so I can drop this in. There you go. Followed by these springs. That completes the internals. Alright, you guys, go ahead and drop this piece in. Remember that square end up. Make sure that lines up. Drop her on. Two of the long screws off on the back two sides, and the shorter screw up here in the front. I like to get them all, these three snugged first, and then go back and tighten them down. flip it over to the one on the inside here. One here. Alright, you guys can continue with actually putting the drag and the handle on first if you want, but I like to go ahead and put the spool in first. Followed by the side plate. And then secure it like so. And with all of my reels, I only hand tighten this one. I never actually take a screwdriver to it. Alright, you guys, so from here, I'm going to grab the first one and the bent end pointed upward, followed by the next one with the bent portion pointed downward to where it looks like that, followed by this piece here, followed by your drag star. Now, you can see that it's just spinning that. Now, that's why I like to put the spool in first. Sometimes it will go all the way down, which it's kind of trying to make its effort. But with putting the spool in first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to depress the spool, freeing it, and then I'm going to place my thumb down on it, and then continue screwing on the drag. At least at a minimum, right down to the squared end here. Alright, you guys, next is this piece here, bent end downward. Followed by your handle. Of course, while I'm trying to make the video, it's giving me issues here on one of the last steps. Alright, there we go. Be sure to start mostly all your screws by hand first to prevent cross-threading. Once you know it's on nice and straight, you can follow it up with your 10mm wrench. It may appear as if I'm cranking it down pretty tight, but I'm not. I'm getting it on there pretty snug, and then also ensuring that it lines up with the screw here, the screw hole here, to allow the cap to fit on. And finish off with this screw here. Alright, I still have it engaged. Oh no, I didn't engage it already. Alright, so at this point here, you're going to go ahead and make sure you test it. Make sure that everything is working appropriately. And then make your adjustments once you put on your lure, line, and reaffix it to your rod and whatnot. Alright, you guys, hopefully this video has helped you out. Take care and tight lines.